like that.
Yeah, there we are. And they said, send me a picture of Danny and I'll do a Photoshop with snake skins and a mullet. Actually, I might do that. Hey everyone, and welcome back to CJRaceCars YouTube channel. Today we're going to give you guys a little update on Eagle. We got the second turbo mounted, and we're going to go over some comments that you guys had in the last video concerning some problems that a lot of people thought we had with suspension stuff, the heat of the turbos, and most importantly, why the front end is staggered. A lot of people had that question. I think there's probably 30 comments. And from now on, I think on Fridays, we will go over any comments that we see that we think there's, you know, a bunch of the same comment. We'll go over them and we'll try to answer them the best we can and see if we can help you guys out. We're about to take this thing off the jig, put it back on a little stand so that Troy can start on a wing, and we're gonna put Jamie's car back on a jig so we can do the front suspension like we just did on Eagle on Jamie's car. Thanks again for everyone that's been supporting the channel, liking, sharing, subscribing. If you haven't already, make sure you go over and check out some of our merch. We just got a bunch of merch in, and it definitely helps us grow the channel. We're trying to bring you as much content as we can. We mentioned in the last video, we're gonna try to do 3 or 4 videos, possibly a week of Eagle, this last like 45 to 60 days we have, and kind of do a vlog on us really pushing hard to get this car done and get it to World Cup. All right, so today we're taking Eagle back off the jig. If you guys watched a few videos ago, we put it on the jig, so we're kind of playing musical cars here with the cars on the jig. The reason we had to put it back on a jig is we didn't have struts at the time, and I don't think we had the engine when we took it off the jig, but we were trying to keep moving forward. We put it back on a jig to fixture the struts, do the lower control arms, do the steering, which we showed you guys in the last video. So all the steering and lower control arm stuff's done now. We also wanted on a jig to mount the turbos because we have a fixture that goes on the jig and holds the turbos where we want them. As you can see, the turbo mounts are done. We've taken the turbos back off now to get it off the jig. Also, Troy did the carbon bumper in the back. He installed that stuff over in a week while it was on the jig, which we could have done this off the jig, but something we knocked out this week. Comes out really clean the way he does it. He panel bonds the pieces to the inside of the bumper, and then we bolt it through the inside of the quarter panel. Instead of having Zeus fasteners exposed, it looks clean. It's just smooth. There's no hardware on the outside, so that's done now. We're gonna move it off the jig because to get to the headers, it's kind of hard with the jig in the way. With it off the jig, we could kind of slide in there. That's one reason. Second reason is we can get it back down a little lower, and Troy's gonna finish the deck lid lips and start on a wing. So we're really just trying to make it to where it's more efficient for more than one person to work on it, and that's off the jig. Also, Jamie's car needs to go back on a jig to do the struts and the suspension stuff we just did on this. So musical cars, we're gonna move it off the jig now and start moving forward on the back of this thing. All right, so we got a lot of comments about Eagle, the steering, heat from the turbos. We're gonna go over some of you guys' comments, and we're gonna get Danny and Troy and myself will answer the questions the best we can, and hopefully that'll help. All right, one of the questions was, is it normal for a drag car to have little steering? It seems crazy small.
If he's talking about turning radius, yes. That is a strange racing rack. It has about 4 inches of travel from one side completely to the other side. So you got 2 inches each side, but due to the steering arm length, and if this was straight out, you would have maximum turning radius, but they're never straight out. They're always on a slight angle. And the more angle you put, the less you're gonna have your wheel turn. But drag cars are set up like this. It's normal. It's not like a factory car. A factory car has much longer arms, much different radius, and the rack probably moves a little bit more, and it will turn the wheel farther because in the real world you want it to turn farther, but on a drag car, turning is secondary. Like if you watch them at the racetrack, just about every car, when they go to turn them into their pit area, they just don't swing into the pit area. They swing in, they unhook, they back it up, turn it, whatever they got to do to get it to go in, because it's a straight line car. Yeah. So radius, turning radius with that one picture with the tire not being very much, that's just normal.
Yeah. We're building drag cars, not autocross. It's a total different game.
Yep. Well, another thing, you said 2 inches, one side, 2 inches, 4 inches total.
Right.
At this point, which is only like 6 inches from here. The tire is going to be 13 inches, so the tire is actually going to turn more like 4.5 inches that way and 4.5 inches this way. So it's still got 9 or 10 inches of turn, which is quite a bit. And like he said, it's a drag car. You want this to turn slow. You don't want to overreact. You're talking about a car that's going to go 250 miles an hour, 260 maybe. So the steering is not something you want to be. You don't need a lot of turning radius. All the tracks pretty much have plenty of turn off. You know, it's not a real sharp 90 or 3-point turn to get off the track or to get on the track. So this is the standard. And
well, it's another important point too, because you don't want the fast or quick steering in a drag car. Don Garlett's the perfect example, trying to get the rear engine dragster to work the first time. They couldn't get it down the track because with the standard box that they were using at the time, the steering was too quick. It was too darty. Once they figured out how to slow down the steering, it changed everything. You know, now everything's rear engine dragster. Same thing with the drag cars. The only real maneuvering you do is in the pits at a slow speed. Going down the drag strip, you know, any major input into the steering wheel could cause big problems. So, you know.
Another thing that nobody's touched on is a street car has a differential in the rear end. So when you turn, one wheel doesn't really do anything, so it turns nice and easy. You don't scrub the front end. These things are direct live axle. So whenever you try to turn one, you all know if you've ever pushed one, as soon as you start to turn it, that car gets real hard to push because one tire wants to drag while the inside one wants to roll. If you had a lot of turning radius on one of these, as soon as you turn that wheel, it would want to push the front end straight. It would severely scrape the front tires on the ground, and it wouldn't follow the ground very well. So, and also we talk about caster. We haven't done that, but caster is the strut being zero caster would be straight up and down. The more caster you throw into it to a point, the more straight line stability. In other words, if you have the wheel, if you let go of the wheel and you're going down the racetrack, if you don't have much caster, it'll want to wander. If you have it out more, like a dragster has way more than this. You can let go of the wheel and the car just snaps back straight. You can turn the wheel, let go of the wheel, it'll snap back straight. But the drawback is when you turn, it's harder to turn and the front wheels will lay over like that. So if any of you ever notice a dragster, when they turn their front wheels, they lay. Because they're around like 20 something degrees, I think, of caster. Which we don't do that on this car, but these cars are set up for straight line. You really can't compare factory specs to that.
All right, the next question is, can the heat of the turbos cause problems so close to the front tire rubber?
For what little bit of time? No.
If we were trying to cannonball this thing to California, yeah. Over time, I would imagine that'd be a problem, but honestly, they fire them up, warm them up in the pits, push them up to the lanes, fire it up, burn out, make a run. I mean, the engine really, it's not a sustained heat for minutes at a time. I mean, the car, we're hoping run 5 seconds in the quarter. It's not, I mean, yes, over time, it could possibly, but there's still enough air distance between it. It shouldn't be a problem at all. Not for the tire.
Yeah, the hottest that turbo gets is at the end of the finish line. You're going 200 plus mile an hour with a whole lot of airflow. Now that's not going to cool it because the airflow is probably warm in there, but it's airflow. It's not going to be like baking right next to a piece of rubber.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to do it in like a NASCAR or, you know, some kind of road race car or any place where you're going to be sustained power.
Plus all your fast turbo cars, Pro Mods or whatever, they have their turbos here. For weight and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But one thing nobody kind of realizes sometimes is that Pro Mod has like 4 or 5 inches more wheelbase. So you have 4 or 5 more inches in here to work with. We're working with a factory wheelbase car with an extended firewall.
Tends to tighten it up.
It tightened everything up. And this Hemi is extremely wide compared to like a big block Chevy. So now we've lost distance this way because you have a fender out here that is where the factory put it. That's our issue with that.
Yeah, as far as the heat goes also, the side of the turbo that's close to the tire is a compressor housing, not the exhaust housing. So it's not going to be as hot anyways. And it also gets a blanket. So most of that has a blanket, not where the actual charge tube comes out, but there's not that much heat, and the wheel's moving also. So to get that tire hot enough to cause a problem, it'd have to be in like the same place for a long period of time. So the wheel's moving. Yep. It's not really getting hot until there's, you know, you're making boost, which you're about to take off, then the wheel's moving. it's not long enough to hurt anything for sure. So totally safe. A lot of them are like that. Another comment was, I know I'm a dummy, but why couldn't you turn the turbo vertical? So some turbos you can lean a little bit more, and some turbos we have leaned a little bit more, but when we got these turbos, they're pretty specific on the bearing part of the turbo that these needed to be no more than 15 degrees. So we're mounting them to their specs. They're right at 15 degrees, so that's the most we could lean them. If we could have leaned them a little more, it would have helped a little bit because we wouldn't have had to have as much of a 90 coming out the back. We could have got out a little quicker. But for that question, yes, you probably have seen some lean a little bit more, and they have a modified bearing housing is the reason for that. These do not, I'm guessing, and that's why they want to keep them at 15 degrees. So we lean them as much as we could, right to 15 degrees, and that's the most we get.
The manufacturer.
Yeah.
Well, some people might not understand that there is an oil feed line that goes to the middle of that housing that runs oil through that housing to lubricate the shaft and to a certain degree keep it cool a little bit. And the reason for the maximum lean, like you said, is so that the oil doesn't find its way out the hot side. Like some companies aren't so worried, you know, I don't know what kind of seal they use or what have you, but Precision Turbos is pretty specific about the maximum amount of lean. So that's the guidelines that we follow.
Why can't the turbo just exit straight out the fender where it is?
Doors in the way.
Yeah. So front to back, we have a problem with, obviously we have no room like we just said. The turbo's kind of jammed back, jammed forward. There's no room. So it's a 5-inch downpipe, which is massive to begin with. And the door kind of has this shape where in the middle it's like this. So the turbo is about in the middle of the door, which is the longest part of the door. So there's really, for one, there's no room there. And not only is there no room there, in my opinion, it will look terrible halfway up the fender. And thirdly, it can't just come straight out the side. So the hardest part is we're having to get a bunch of bends really quick, and it has to get totally straight about an inch or two before the fender so we can get a V-band on it so that we can add a 45 degree or 90 degree bullhorn that's adjustable on the outside without putting a V-band on the outside. So quite a few reasons there, but the main part is the door. Because if you came straight out, you'd pretty much have to put a big notch in the door.
You can come straight out, make it flush with the body, no bullhorn of any kind, and if you wanted to just burn out your paint and your fiberglass or carbon fiber, yeah, you can do that, but nobody does anything like that.
No. Yeah, you want to get it out a little bit and then have a turn up. And
Well,
they do.
Plus you're eliminating the opportunity to gain some downforce
Right.
by
That's
having
major.
the tube turned up.
That's major.
You'd be surprised how much downforce you get. You take a piece of straight tubing and shoot air to it. Now put a bend on the end, and you'd be surprised how much downforce you get from that bent piece of tube, pushing exhaust out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, so that bullhorn, that 90 degree or 45, whatever you put on it, more than likely it'll be 90 on this car, can be used as a tuning device also. So they'll angle, they can angle the bullhorn backwards, forwards, but not forward. They can angle it straight up or straight back really, or anywhere in between. And it's actually a tuning device.
The more you lay it back, the less down pressure you're going to get.
Right.
And I mean,
Yeah.
the science.
Yeah, a lot of science
In
there.
classes with no wheelie bars, that can save you.
Yeah, blower cars have even more downforce. Like I said, Azumis on a blower car, they have a ton of downforce. And when building a set of Azumis, you would think you just need to build them if you never really pay attention, but there's a lot involved in the angles of how much they lean back, how much they stand straight up. We've had customers want to build 2 or 3 sets for the same car to switch out headers, to try different stuff. So there's a lot to it. Yeah, there's a lot to the header stuff. So.
And then how much they angle up where you're not burning the side off the car, which we've seen recently.
Yeah.
We had to adjust the set.
Yeah, it's a very, and we try too. We try to push them all in, and sometimes it could be too far, but you don't want to stick them out and it look like there's a, hanging way out. They'd look terrible. So you try to push them in as far as you can.
Aesthetics plays as big a part as the functionality.
Yeah, and that's something we really aim for also, is not just function, but we want our stuff to look right. Another reason why we wouldn't put them out in the middle of the fender even if the door wasn't in the way.
There's so much Downforce on that. This is a little off from our cars, but next time you're watching an NHRA race with nitro funny cars, if you see one tube of those 8 tubes get put out where it's not burning, it's just shooting out raw fuel, that car is being pushed the opposite direction because he lost. One side's pushing harder than the other so much, the car is hard to steer.
Yeah, that's crazy when you see that. Danny, why won't you grow a mullet?
It's stupid.
That wasn't really a comment. Oh, it probably was. But
No, I mean, come on, people. That was something back in the 80s. It was never me. I think it's stupid.
And Troy's sitting right next to him with a mullet.
Well, no, I don't mean that. I mean, for me it is.
For you, it's stupid.
For me it is.
For
I mean,
Troy's already.
For one thing,
he's a mullet guy.
I couldn't grow one if I wanted to. 2, I'm not about to put a fake one on because why would I want to make myself look like an idiot? But I do pretty well at that all by myself, according to some people. But that's okay. My skin's about that thick.
All right, the last question we have, which was the most asked question
Not stagger.
by far, was which a lot of people, if I didn't build race cars, it would not make sense. For
it
sure.
is a subject that unless you know drag racing,
you
won't know it
for sure.
You won't know it.
So the question is why are the front wheels staggered 2 inches? And the answer is
roll out. Roll out. You ask what that is. Feel free, anybody, to step in if I don't get this right.
all right, basically, the starting line, there are 2 beams that go across the starting line. You have a pre-stage and a stage. As you roll forward, you'll see the top light go on. That means that one of the tires has broke that pre-stage beam. Now, as I roll forward a little more, the second light will go on. Now you're staged. Basically, the rule of thumb is one car will pre-stage, a second car will pre-stage, then stage and stage. It doesn't have to happen in any order, but both cars, proper etiquette anyway, want to be pre-staged before anybody stages, regardless. The second beam, as you go in, you break the second beam, that will be staged. Now both cars are staged and ready to leave. Depending on whether we'll use a 4,000th Pro Tree, for instance, you'll have a flashy yellow and green. That flashy yellow is 4,000. Most people let go of the tranny brake on the yellow because it takes a second for the car to react, and they have a little stagger. And what that stagger does is it keeps that back tire in the beams longer than just the 2 tires side by side. So that kind of allows you almost like a jump start at the very beginning of the run, an advantage, so to speak. Without that stagger in the front tires, both tires are going to pull out of the beam at the same time, which is it could possibly red light you if, depending on the situation. But
A slight head start.
yeah, you
Legal.
get a
slight head start.
it's called rollout. Basically, as the car leaves the starting line, some cars are going to tug the tires out of the beams, but most cars are going to roll out of the beams. And just having that stagger, in other words, instead of having a circle this big, you have a circle this big covering, the lights.
Yeah.
And it's just a trick that we've come across years and years and years ago. We've been doing it for decades, and it works. It's
within reason. They only allow you like
2 inches.
Some
2 to 3
classes, I
inches.
think some classes are 3, but two's what we set all our cars at. You'd be surprised too how much even tire size changes it. If
Oh,
you go from like a
absolutely.
24-inch tire to a 26-inch tire, it's a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
So like on cars, like when we built the Scion, they wanted to make sure we ran a 26-inch tire, even though we could have run 25, might have looked a little bit better. But if you're trying to go for like a record, any advantage, so if you get a 2-inch head start,
Yep.
you already have a little bit of speed before your time starts. So it all adds up quite a bit. So
Well, the stagger, you'll see that, you can visually see it in like a top fuel car. But then again, like he said, with the tire size, back in the day, they were running these tiny little airplane tires. Everybody thought that was cool. But they began to realize that it was to their disadvantage because they lost a lot of the rollout because of the tire diameter. That's why you see them go back to the bigger tires. So there's a lot of advantages in the designing and the way you put these cars together to help you race them successfully. And stagger, tire size, that's all part of the bag of tricks that go into building these cars and making them successful.
Yep, that's the main thing for stagger. So we build it into there. It doesn't really affect the steering at all. It doesn't really hurt anything, and it has advantages. Also, we usually stagger the driver's side and not the passenger side. The reason that I think that is, I don't really know why that started, but I would say that the reason for that is because the head is usually farther forward on the driver's side, and if you're exiting exhaust out the driver's side, your wheel and your head is kind of both moved in the same direction. So I would assume if we do zoomies or something, that kind of helps. If that side's staggered, not this side. If you stagger this side and that side was back, it would make your headers more difficult. You have a lot more room over here and a lot less room over there. So that's why normally it's always the driver's side. I have seen some done on the passenger side. Probably wouldn't matter either way, but that's pretty standard how we do it. Also, if you guys want to have your comments maybe read, or you guys have questions, I think every Friday maybe we'll do a little video.
This is good.
If there's questions, because there are questions, it's hard for me to answer them all. It'd be better if we answered them on here, and you guys can get everyone's opinion on whatever concerns you have. We'll do our best to answer them. We can't answer them all, but we'll pick a few that we think are good, and we'll answer them.
Yeah.
So make sure you comment any questions you guys have, other than why Danny won't have a mullet, and we'll do our best to answer it. Good?
A little bit more, Buffalo. There, a little more. Do it again.
Come towards me.
What do you want? More?
To be centered, you want to come in a little bit, yeah. That's pretty close, but still a little bit your way. Better now? Yeah.
We should be doing this with a crane. I don't know why we don't have a crane.
You don't need insurance, to be honest. This is more versatile.
Huh?
This is more versatile. A crane, one spot, it doesn't move all over.
This is a crane that just moves around.
That'll work.
got to go straight like you going backward.
No, if you got
the
room.
table? Set it down on the stand.
No, I want it at the table where it's at.
All right.
So we can just set it down.
Where do you want this front stand at? You want it closer to the rack or closer to the fuel cell?
In front of the rack.
Right. Closer to the rack or the fuel cell?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Hang on. You got it, Danny?
I got to move it a little bit here. Okay. I hold it right there.
That's point 2.
I'm at
Point two what? Got to go higher?
Arrow up.
I'm at point 4 over here, so yeah, it's pretty close.
I think that's pretty close. I mean, we're not really adding any.
I've got shit.
I think that's close.
We're not really doing any chassis stuff.
Okay.
The wing would be the only thing, but we could reference it off of that. Yeah, you can go forward a little bit if you want. Try close. Look, Ben, he's in shape, man. Ben will get it by himself. Ben could pick it up just one arm like that right from the middle.
Are we going to just pick the front end up by hand and then back end with the...
Yeah, I think that's fine. It shouldn't. I mean, this whole thing only weighs probably 350 pounds right now.
No, I don't weigh that.
He's also over 10 years younger than I am. So
Yeah.
he's there.
Yeah.
He's right.
What we need you to do is grab it in the middle and just kind of do a few curls.
You want left or right arm?
Well, I would do a little of both, so you don't, and then put it on the table.
This is the right height to do shrugs.
Shrugs? Yeah.
Then if he tiptoes, get some calf raises.
If Danny had a mullet, we could tie it around the back and he could do some squats with it.
Oh, I ain't doing no squats with his hips anymore.
Put his mullet tied to the front. I do think with the mullet and the snake skins.
Oh my God.
Someone sent an email and they said, send me a picture of Danny and I'll do a Photoshop with snake skins and a mullet. Actually, I might do that.
The only thing missing is a 69 Dodge Dart with a 440.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah, that'd finish it off. No mullet. All right, Danny, fine.
I have my limits.
It ends at the haircut. We gotta go back? Yeah. All right, everyone, that's pretty much it for this video. As you can see, we got Troy in the back. He's doing the flush mount deck lid lips now. They're about ready to tack in, and then he'll be starting on the wing. Danny will be starting on probably the headers with me on Monday. We'll put the turbos back on now that's off. Starting the headers, down pipe. We got all the stuff, the charge pipe stuff coming. So it's really gonna start to come together. We do gotta do some firewall pieces, and that's pretty much all the sheet metal left. Most of the time consuming fabrication left is what Troy's doing now, and we'll show you a little more of that next week on how we make all the flush mount window lips. It's a ton of work. We do them all by hand. They have to get, you have to use a shrinker stretcher to make them work. It's a lot of work. We'll show you more details on that stuff probably in the next few videos. But other than that, there's not a ton of fabrication. We've already gotten a lot of little stuff done. So we're really aiming for about September 1st to have this thing at powder coat. Cletus is working on picking out a color now for powder coat. I think he's got a paint scheme coming soon. So really gonna start to come together soon. Hopefully start next week, we can give you guys 3 or 4 videos a week. If it ends up being too much and we can't get updates, we may back it down, but we'll see how it goes. Again, thanks for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.